if I can get this thing working.
Can everybody hear me? Or a little loud? Check, 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 check. Is that good? Hi everybody, my name is Mischa Hedges. I'm the co-founder of TrimTab Media, which is a company that works with sustainable brands and nonprofits to help them tell their stories more effectively. And just to give you a little bit of background, I spent the last 10 years working as a documentary filmmaker and also as a professional editor in Los Angeles. And during that time worked on commercials and films and infomercials even. And during that time really realized that I wanted to bring good storytelling to companies that are doing good things in the world and nonprofits that are doing good things in the world. So that's why I started TrimTab Media with my co-founder Ileani, who is somewhere right around here, right behind the camera actually. So my presentation today is about how sustainable brands can share their stories. And I'm going to show how some organizations are doing this well and screen a few videos that tell their stories. And I'm also going to give you some ideas for how you can start telling your stories. So brands have actually been telling stories for a long time in an interesting form, advertising. They try to figure out what their customers want or need, and they produce well-crafted stories with strategic messaging that they think will reach their customers or persuade them to buy their products or services. And people are exposed to thousands of advertisements every single day, at the bus stop, before our TV shows, all across the internet. And it's constantly buy all the time. So I have a question for all of you guys. How many people here skip the advertisements? On the TiVo, on the little skip this ad link? Right, me too. So at TrimTab, we think that traditional advertising isn't a sustainable form of communications. And that people, like you and I, are annoyed by ads, so they skip them or click away, like you just said. So we think there's a much more engaging approach for sustainable brands to communicate with the people that support them, with their customers, with the people that buy their products or services, with the donors that support their nonprofit organizations and that fantastic work that they're doing. And we think that it's powerful to get back to telling your real story. And that's because there's a big difference between using messaging to try to manipulate your audience in advertising and using storytelling to connect with your audience. And before I go on, I want to define what I mean when I talk about audience. So your audience can be business to business, the business to business consumer, your customers. Business to consumer, so your customers. Business to business, so your clients or your business customers. Nonprofit supporters, so donors. Or internal stakeholders, employees, vendors, staff members, team leaders, anyone within your company. So all those people can be your audience, depending upon what you're trying to communicate. And when I say brand, I mean a company. Companies brand themselves. A nonprofit, nonprofits brand themselves. Or you, people brand themselves. People have their own personal brands. It's how they present themselves. It's who and what they associate themselves with. So good storytelling at its roots is about listening to your audience, sharing true stories that matter to them, and starting meaningful conversations with them. And one of the many advantages that we, as sustainable brands and nonprofits, values-driven companies and nonprofits, is that we can share our real stories. We don't have as much to hide. And many of these stories are worth sharing, and we don't have to rely on the manufactured stories like a lot of people in advertising do. So when our stories communicate our values and the positive impact that we're having on the world, our audience can start to see how our values align with theirs. And that's not something that they'll take lightly, because people in this space, in the sustainability space, they live by their values, they shop by their values, they donate their money according to their values, and they care intimately about people and the environment, like all of us do, I'm assuming, since we're here. So with your stories, you can create a community of these people and start to build brand loyalty, whether you're a nonprofit, a business, or a person, that lasts longer than any ad campaign, because true stories resonate at a much deeper level than ads. So I'm going to go over a few different approaches to brand storytelling, how some other folks are doing it, some work that we've done, and show some great case studies. So one of the best ways to connect with your audience is to tell stories that humanize your brand. So Whole Foods Market is actually doing this really, really well. they've got a site called Whole Foods Love Local, where they're sharing video stories about all of their foragers. So their foragers are the people that they hire to actually go out into local food sheds and source local food. And they've created this microsite where they share mini documentaries about these foragers and about the farmers that they interact with. And these Love Local stories are true stories. They're not actors, there are no scripts to write. They're stories that show real people with similar values to their customers. And they show Whole Foods' commitment to sourcing local foods, the story that their audience care about. So rather than spending a whole bunch of money on an ad campaign, they're spending a whole bunch of money producing stories that communicate with their customers in a more meaningful way. So they're also doing more than this. They're creating how-to videos. So they're providing their customers with value beyond what they're asking them to buy. Kitchen notes, they've got a section with recipes. They've got more about their people here. They've really just created this very rich, engaging site with all types of stories about Whole Foods and local food. And that's a part of Whole Foods' story. They also source food from Chile and all over the place. But this is an important part of their story and an important part of their vision and their mission, and they're moving towards that by starting to tell these stories. So another approach is to share stories that communicate your heart and soul, and stories about why what you do. And Charity Water is a nonprofit that's doing this really well. They build drinking water systems for villages in developing countries, and they're telling the story of why they're doing it through their blog and through moving videos that show the impact of what they're doing. And they use these stories to raise support for their efforts and connect with the donors that support their amazing work. And they introduce their people too. Their founder, Scott Harrison, I think that's his name, yeah, Scott Harrison, he's great about telling his story. They've got all types of videos that he's featured in that communicate his founding story and really communicate why he decided to start this organization and why they're doing important work and how they're doing important work and what people can do to support that work. And these stories of heart and soul are extremely powerful because they connect with your audience on an emotional level. And that's what advertisers try to do with stories that are manufactured. But these are their true stories, and they're really leveraging the power of that. So you can also tell stories that celebrate progress and show how you're addressing sustainability challenges. It's not all happy stories. So here's an example of a video that our company TrimTab produced with Thanksgiving Coffee Company to tell a story about one of their challenges. And it's a 3-minute video about how they partnered with coffee farmers to start addressing the effects of climate change on coffee crops. Coffee is threatened by climate change. So I'm going to show you this video. It's about 3 minutes.
Thanksgiving Coffee was invited to Rwanda in 2003 as part of a USAID supported project to help rebuild the coffee industry. What I saw on my first visit to Rwanda was a powerful cooperative, incredibly resilient people who had come together just a few years before. As I toured a farm or two with the cooperative leaders, I saw something that really rang an alarm bell for me. The fruit wasn't actually ripening. Instead of getting to a point where it could be harvested, it was literally drying on the vine. I asked the farmers, what is this that we're seeing? And they're really clear that, well, it hasn't rained. These trees don't have the water they need to produce and ripen as fruit. During that conversation, the farmers began to articulate very clearly that this was the impact of climate change, that they were seeing real time in their lives changing weather. It has the potential to actually destroy crops. We began a conversation about what we can do about this. How can we protect these coffee trees? How can we ensure that you have this amazing coffee on the tree to harvest, to process, and to offer to us so we can offer it to our customers? Working over a period of a few years, we created a project, Responding to Climate Change, Building Community-Based Resilience. The project began with the creation of seedling nurseries and an outreach and education program. The outreach and education helped farmers translate what they were seeing into a strategic sense of what the impact of climate change was and how they could protect and buffer their farms. In its first year, 90,000 trees were planted by the cooperative. These are individual farmers going to the seedling nursery, working with the agronomist, taking a basket of seedlings home and planting trees on their farms. These trees were identified as solutions to erosion and the loss of topsoil to build basically living barriers, swales, that would hold rainwater as it flooded off the mountainsides and actually charge the aquifer. The water would absorb into the soil. Cooperatives present an amazing platform for this kind of work. They bring together hundreds, if not thousands, of farmers in an area. They can push forward projects that completely transform that ecosystem. To continue this work and support similar efforts with our partners at Origin around the world, Thanksgiving Coffee has worked to create the Resilience Fund, which is an independent nonprofit social venture that seeks to harness resources and financing to support cooperatives and their farmers to create their own climate change adaptation efforts. The Resilience Fund is an opportunity for everyone who loves coffee, whether we're baristas, chefs, or coffee roasters, to join this effort and support farmers facing climate change so that they can continue to produce great coffee now and for generations to come.
Thanks. So this video is being used by Thanksgiving Coffee to introduce their nonprofit arm, the Resilience Project, and gather supporters. And they're taking this challenge. Granted, they've been doing this, but the important part about this for us is that they're telling their story and they're inspiring other people to get on board with this effort and to come up with other efforts to match challenges that they're facing. We can't be timid about sharing the stories of the work that we're doing, especially the work that all of you people are doing in the world, because it's amazing, it's fantastic. You've got amazing stories to tell. And if you hide those or worry about greenwashing, they're never going to get out there, and you're not going to gain the recognition for those stories, which is important, and you don't have the potential to inspire other people to do similar work if they don't know about it. So another powerful way of starting conversations with your community is by asking them to participate. So Cliff Bar is a Bay Area company founded on outdoor adventures and environmental stewardship, and they're doing just that through a website called Meet the Moment. And on Meet the Moment, Cliff Bar asks their customers to share pictures and stories about moments from their outdoor adventures. And for each moment that their customers upload, they're donating $5 to organizations that conserve and restore the natural environment. And there are hundreds and hundreds of these moments on their website. And by involving their customers, they're building a community of people that are now intimately a part of their story. So they're actually bringing their audience, their customers, into their story as well. So sometimes an idea is hard to explain through text or through photos or even through a live action video. So that's a story that can explain. There's a complex issue that you have to explain somehow, and it's hard to figure out how to do that. So we worked with one of our clients, Green, which is an internet startup company, to create a graphics-driven video that explains about company's values and offering. And I was going to show it, and I have about 2 minutes left, I think. So you can check it out at .green.org if you'd like to see it. So we'll just skip that. And in this video, Green explains what green means to them and their commitment to building an online community of people with sustainable values. They're selling the .green domain name, or they will be shortly. So they're using it on their homepage to introduce new visitors to their site. They're sharing it via social media. And it's these stories that explain can help your customers and supporters understand why what you do is important, and also help launch a new initiative or a new offering, or even launch your new venture. So we think that sharing stories are a powerful way to start meaningful communications with your customers and build your brand more authentically. And I know that this has been a mostly visual presentation so far, but so the next couple slides have a couple of bullet points. I know that's a big no-no in presentations, but it's for your benefit if you want to take a couple notes. This is our process for how we go through with our clients to discover their stories and start sharing them. So I'll go through these quickly because I think I'm nearing the end of the time here. But the first question that we ask when we get our clients grouped together, we try to bring in as many stakeholders as we can from the organization, is who is your audience? You've got to define who the stakeholders are that you're trying to reach when you start to tell your stories. The next one is, what are their values and what do they care about? So trying to understand the person on the other end of the line is very important when you start to tell your stories. Another one is which of your audience's values align with yours. So this will help to clarify which of the stories that you want to tell will be relevant to your audience. And then what are your stories? So looking deep within your organization and find your hero stories. Stories about how your company was founded, how your products are made, what your products are made of, who works for you, what are you doing to advance sustainability initiatives within your company. Really drilling down to the issues and the stories that your audience care about, and then find out ways to tell them in an engaging way. And another question is, how can you involve your audience and provide value? So beyond selling them something, how can you give them something of value through your communication efforts that will really, I don't want to say win you over from kind of a marketing perspective, that's part of it, but it's also part of building your movement and building towards your vision. So once you've figured out which stories you're going to tell, how and where can you share them? So I'm just going to give a few examples. Your website, a great place to start. Front and center is best. When people go to websites, one of the first pages they click on is the About page, because they want to know who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, and what you do. So some organizations are creating a whole stories section of their website with written stories, with videos, with audio podcasts, all types of great content that tells their stories. Blogs and email blasts, places that you're already communicating with your customers, are a great place to start putting your stories. Videos, you can shoot simple videos yourself with an iPhone or flip cam for a couple $100. You can edit them using free software. It's a great way to post regular updates. Or you can hire a company like ours, like another one, to produce professionally produced videos that have a different impact. Social media, a great place to post regular updates and share mini stories, to share other content like blogs and videos that you create. Mobile apps, games, and activities. So this is that interactive part, like the Cliff Bar Meet the Moment. How can you engage your audience and have them contribute to your story? How can you interact with them more in that space? And then press releases, blogger outreach, and EPKs. This is a great way to put your stories out beyond your immediate channels. So beyond your Facebook page and your YouTube channel and your website, all the places that you maintain, how can you bring those stories further out into the world and make sure more people see them? And then the other part is the real world, offline, in person, at conferences, events, one-to-one. We produce several videos for startups that are trying to gain funding, and they actually bring their laptop with a video about their company so that they can explain in a more engaging way to their customers, to their potential investors, what they do and why they should support them. So we founded TrimTab Media because we believe in the power of stories, and we love working with sustainable brands and nonprofits to leverage that power. And we believe that they can create even more positive change in the world if they start sharing their stories. We all have very amazing stories to tell, so let's start telling them. I'd love to talk with any of you, all of you, about some of your stories, so I'll be around after this. Here's our contact info and Facebook, Twitter, if you want to like us, any of that stuff. I've also got some postcards that explain a little bit more about what we do if you're interested. So thank you for listening, and go out and share your stories.